Good morning and welcome to the Thursday, May 6th meeting of the New York State Independent Redistricting Commission. Thank you all so much for joining us. As always, we start with updates from our co-executive directors. It's been a busy couple of weeks in redistricting world. So Karen and Doug, take it away.
Yes, well, the apportionment numbers came out from the Census Bureau, and it appears that New York is losing one seat. We're going to go down to 26. We were 89 people short of keeping that seat. So the population in New York State now is 20,201,249.
Thank you, Karen. Does anyone want to speak on the reapportionment? I mean, I think that if this shows anything, it's that the voices of every New Yorker needs to be heard and how much of a difference every individual person in New York State can make. And I think that that is something that we as a commission should try to ensure, that every New Yorker's voice is heard, knowing that, you know, the number of people in the subway car could have been the difference between a single congressional district, losing a single congressional district. But do any commissioners want to weigh in on this subject? Yeah, Commissioner Flatow.
Well, just to mention, so our new population figures for 2020 for the state of New York at 20.2 million and now 26 congressional districts means our new congressional district size should be approximately 777,000, which is 60,000 more than a congressional district size in 2010 when they were last drawn. So we have our work cut out ahead of us to come up with the next set of congressional districts.
Yeah, and proportionately, we carry that through to our Senate districts and our Assembly districts, and proportionally they will increase quite a bit, and obviously that's going to be part of the equation. My concern is 89 votes in 20.2, or 89 people in 20.2 million people. The statistical analysis is, it's troubling. Frankly, how do you get to 89 in a year where we had COVID and the difficulties of actually counting were as significant as they were this past year? I would like to see, someone seriously consider a challenge to that number. It could have been 10, it could have been 8,000. It was 89, and for anyone who thinks that they actually got that count right and they can get it as precise as to reach a number like 89, I don't, unfortunately, under all of these circumstances. And I think New York is being, unfortunately, disproportionately affected by that. A congressional seat is a congressional seat, but it also means funding. It means allocation of resources. It means a voice in Washington. I'd just love to see the Attorney General and the Governor and the leadership in Albany, hopefully take a position and ask some real hard questions of the federal government, the Census specifically, to justify the 89, and we shouldn't just accept it at face value. That's all.
Would anyone else want to weigh in on the apportionment? I think I speak for the commission when I say thank you to everyone who participated in getting out the census last year in New York State. I know that many of the people who, many of our members were part of making sure that everyone in New York State was counted. And I know that this year in particular was incredibly difficult. And I think it speaks to the success of every group in New York that made this their priority, that New York only lost one congressional district and only by 89 people. So thank you to everyone who was involved in that.
Let's go find the 89. I'm with
Listen,
free the 89.
If we all free the 89, the reality is, if we all actually just hopped on our cell phones and went through our contact list, I'm sure we could find 89 people who did not participate in the census, and that should be a concern for all of us. And certainly, David, to your message, if it's not a wake-up call, obviously this year, because it's happened, it should be a wake-up call for 2030. And, the need for people to understand just how important it is for them to participate in that process.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if there's anyone out there who doubts the importance of a single voice in our government, let this be their answer. So yeah, anyone else want to discuss this? Sorry.
No, just to point out, and we did lose a congressional seat, but our state population did go up significantly from 2010 to 2020.
Right.
So,
Which
it's
was
important
not
that people
expected.
understand, as the population has increases, our proportionate share of the national population has decreased, but our population actually did go up significantly, and that presents its own challenges.
Mhm.
All right. Anyone else want to discuss the apportionment numbers? All right, so moving on, Karen and Doug, could you provide us with a logistics update on the commission?
The Office of State Comptroller is working with the state financial services to create the department, the Independent Redistricting Commission Department, so that we can draw from our budget.
Great. Doug, do you have anything else to add?
We still don't have funding, but that's accurate. It's taking a little time, but yeah, that's where we stand, and we have been in communication. That's what we've found out so far.
Well, I look forward to the meeting where our first prior agenda item is not the budget.
Any preliminary projections on when we will become a department? Approximately, are we talking a month, a few weeks?
I can say I'm done guessing. We've been having this conversation for a while. I don't know, but it does seem that it is in the process. They have communicated with us. So
I think I would simply say that we or I particularly urge the controller and their staff to move forward. We're well behind. We certainly can't do any of our public outreach or organizational work without money. Can't hire staff, and this holdup is just. Please.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we lost you for 10 seconds there.
All right. Well, it was probably the most important 10 seconds. Anyway, please move forward because at this point it's beginning to be not just important but urgent that we get moving on our public mission.
All right. Does anyone else want to ask our co-executive directors anything on this issue or weigh in on this?
No, I think that John has asked the question, can we have a time frame? But the state is still not demonstrating that this has urgency. While we feel that urgency and we talk about that urgency all the time in each of these public meetings that we have not seen any action from the state that matches the urgency that we feel and that we see on behalf of the public that is interested in this process and wants to participate in the process of weighing in on their democratic representation. So I want to join Commissioner Nesbitt and say, please act and help us move forward in carrying out this agenda and being able to hire people and start drawing lines as soon as possible now that we have been given the apportionment numbers.
Great. So moving on, we had discussed, Karen and Doug had drafted job postings, job descriptions. I know that we have yet to be fully funded, but it appears that we are at the point where I would argue we can go ahead and put those job descriptions out. Karen and Doug, do you want to talk about their status?
They're complete. The only issue is we don't have access to any money and we don't have a website to post them on. So any option that we have to post would be a free option.
Couldn't we opt to have them posted on the legislature's website? Logistically, they're going to be employees of the legislature. Shouldn't we move forward and take advantage of these next couple of weeks and at least advance that? I don't think we'd be, I guess you could seek clarity from them, but I don't think it would be improper for us to do it that way. And at least we can at least begin vetting candidates until we know exactly when we're funded. It'll save us at least a couple of weeks.
And I think that's a good idea. I do have a concern, and that is how do you receive application and how do you properly record it? We don't have, with no funds, we have no, I mean, you're talking about personal emails or, and no real way to secure the records. It's a real concern. And I know it sounds simple, just post the jobs and we'll get some applications, but where do they send them? How do we receive them? How do we record them? All those things are concerns, and while they don't need much money, they need some.
Doug, you had unmuted yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those concerns are legitimate. I think Karen and I can maybe have a conversation and come back with some options if you would like us to. Because it is an anticipation of funds, but it would get us rolling a little bit if that's what you choose to do as commissioners.
Maybe we could take up a collection among we commissioners. We could front end the state of New York process going and charge back when we get our budget.
John, that's a bottomless pit. I don't think you want to go.
I'd have to cut back on my snowplow contract.
Well, couldn't the Senate set us up with the website? Not the website, rather. We can't do the website. Obviously, we got to pay for that.
Yeah, an email address.
Email?
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
Oh, I thought, what about the personnel, the RSVP being a personnel office of the legislature? Since again, they will be legislative employees, so they could submit their applications there and be held there and logged in until we move to a plan B.
Yes, we can ask, or we can ask if they would just set up 2 email addresses, one irc@nysenate.gov, the other, irc@nyassembly.gov. And if they give you that option, at least you have a place for these things to land, and you can always then forward all that into the commission's website when or its communications and emails once it's actually formed. But look, if it allows us to move forward, I would urge, if everyone agrees, I would urge the executive directors, to maybe find an option, either as Commissioner Flateau said, or something equivalent that would allow us to at least move forward and obviously address the concerns that Commissioner Nesbitt had as far as safeguarding the records and making sure that we have a proper trail.
I just want to suggest that perhaps Commissioner Flateau could reach out to CUNY to post with CUNY institutions.
Sure, I could find out. I could find out that information and forward it to you and Doug.
Okay.
Right. You may want to do SUNY as well. CUNY, SUNY.
So, and just for the public, Karen and Doug, what jobs are we talking about? Right? What positions are?
There is the public engagement director, the assistant to the public engagement director, the data manager, and administrative assistant. And I believe that's what we're posting.
Okay, great. So I think that, we authorize you to go ahead and post those, figure out with the legislature some means of being a collection point, as Charlie said. Anything else, commissioners, that we want to discuss on this issue? Doug, yeah.
I just wanted, just a point of clarity. Without adopting a budget by the commission, we won't post salaries on these, correct?
Yeah, I think to Commissioner Winter's point, that might be appropriate. Maybe just a line that says compensation commensurate with experience without putting a number, because we haven't officially approved our budget yet, right? Personnel items, et cetera. I think that's a good point.
Okay.
Great. Anything else on this topic, commissioners? All right, so moving along, public outreach. So Evilise had distributed her plan. With some additions have been made to it.
Plan.
As well as a draft calendar for potential hearings. One edit I did want to make is that, and I wanted to raise this for my fellow commissioners, is NCSL is having a conference in Salt Lake City in July. And I was wondering if we should try to avoid having a direct conflict with that. So I just wanted to flag that as a potential edit to the calendar. But, in the absence of the budget of our finalizing the budget, there's not much we can really say on public outreach. But is there anything else that folks want to discuss regarding Evilise's plan, or anything that should be added?
Can we at least say this is a preliminary schedule so that the public is on notice that we're coming? That I think the first set of hearings start in June, according to the draft calendar, as I recall, right? June, which is next month. Can we at least maybe stamp this as, quote, the preliminary schedule to be confirmed or something like that, but at least start getting the word out, because we're covering 18 hearings in this round one schedule. Yes, Commissioner Cuevas?
Yeah, I think John makes a good point that it certainly isn't no more than preliminary, and the longer we wait here to be able to staff up, because they'll be the people putting these things together, this thing could be compressed and or truncated based on the slow flow of the money. I know everybody's feeling the same frustration, and it's just so important that that money get released to us so that we could get going. We need, people to set up the hearings. We need people to be able to record what's said, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a hiring process ahead that I anticipate will take some weeks. So, we're already threatening the early dates.
Yeah, I would say that I am hesitant for us to publish any tentative calendar because the logistics involved in planning these events seem to be quite complex, and without having any infrastructure yet, I would be very hesitant, especially since we have to announce each hearing 30 days in advance.
Well, so that actually is not true. That's only true for our constitutionally required hearings in the fall.
Oh, okay.
Because these are, as Jack put it, gratuitous hearings.
Okay. Then we would discuss like how much in advance are we going to announce these events in order to make sure that they are well attended, since it is it's our mission to give voice to as many New Yorkers as possible, especially under the circumstances that we are in now, where we are losing one congressional seat, right? What would you suggest as?
Lisa, I agree with you. The one concern I have is giving people dates and then not being able to actually meet those dates. I think that's the worst possible scenario.
Yes.
For those who would be interested in participating, they should know right now that we are going to be holding these hearings. If we're not able to give you 30 days notice, we'll give you a week's notice. We'll give you 2 weeks notice. But I think we err on the side of holding hearings and giving people the opportunity to participate. And we don't allow, in this instance, form over substance. We can't afford, because of how late this whole funding issue has become, we can't afford to keep pushing back and waiting 30 days. So we're going to do the best we can to provide people with as much notice as possible. This is notice right now. I think our commission's discussion and the consensus we have on this commission is we're going to hold these hearings. So for anyone who's interested in participating, start preparing your statements now.
Yes.
So that way, when we call on you and we tell you that we're going to be holding a hearing in Manhattan or in Brooklyn or in Nassau or in Albany or in Rochester or in Buffalo or anywhere else in the state, you're prepared to come out. So start preparing your statement now. Don't wait until you hear about the date. You're hearing about it now. We're going to do something now, sometime in June or July. As soon as we can get there, start preparing your statements now. Start getting your facts together that you'd like to present. We're going to be there. We'll be back in September. You'll get 30 days then. But for now, here's your notice. Go.
And just to clarify, when we talk about statements, we're talking about communities of interest. Let's talk about your community, talk about how you think the line should be drawn in order to ensure that your community is kept together in a way that is logical. And then number two, we're asking people, how can you improve the lines, right? Still not having the official census data, still not knowing exactly how we can redraw the lines. Tell us, give in in how the districts are currently construed, how things could be improved, right? So that's what we're asking the public to provide.
That should be in the draft hearing notice, a one.
Yes, and I think we should definitely have a press conference or something once, where we go forward and say, this is what we're asking. Here is the schedule. Here is representable or whatever interface we're going to be using to solicit maps. And this is what we're asking you to provide.
I would just point out that our preliminary schedule does not have dates. It only has months on it. So if there was a concern that we're putting dates out there, the calendar only mentions, June, July, August, September, and it groups those 18 locations. We're using, I believe, we added the southern tier, as I recall,
and the North Country
and the North Country
right.
to the list. But I'm still for putting something out there, a list, some kind of preliminary list.
Yeah, I think
I'm only one person, one vote here, but that's my humble.
No. And in addition to what Jack is saying of telling people, prepare your remarks or your testimony that you're going to give, we should be announcing to the public what are the regions, and so that they have an idea, you know, which one they're going to be preparing for as they put together their testimony for us to hear what they think needs to change with their lines.
Should we just briefly list all of them? Does anyone, Karen and Doug, do you have?
I have the list.
Oh, you have them. Yeah, Eva-Lisa, do you want to just briefly list them?
Sure. Albany, Buffalo, Syracuse, Rochester, White Plains, Bronx County, Kings County, New York County, Queens County, Richmond County, Nassau, Suffolk, and we've added the North Country and the Southern Tier. Those are the regions.
Great. Anything, oh, we should have lost Elaine. Elaine, are you back with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Anything else that commissioners would like to discuss on this issue? All right, before we schedule our next meeting, is there anything else that anyone would like to discuss outside of the items we've talked about? All right, so in terms of scheduling our next meeting, we had discussed the possibility of May 21st at 10 a.m. Does that work for the group?
It works for me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And Eric, just confirming that this works for you folks. May 21st at 10 a.m. Yes. Okay, great. So our next meeting will be on Friday, May 21st at 10 a.m. Is there anything else that commissioners would like to discuss? All right. Well, thank you so much. I would ask for a motion to adjourn our meeting. So moved by Commissioner Barnes.
Second.
Yes, second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Closing.
Aye.
Good
All
luck,
right.
everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.